Long before history was written, the ancients encoded their deepest truths in myth, not as fantasy, but as instruction. Stories meant to be lived, not simply remembered. This is a story of a king who was murdered and became eternal, of a goddess who refused to let love perish, of a child who restored balance to a broken world. This is the story of Set and Asar, known as Isis and Osiris. Before time was measured, before stone remembered its own name, when the gods walked openly among humanity and the world breathed in rhythm with the Nile, there was a king who ruled not through fear, but through harmony. His name was Asar, later called Osiris by the Greeks. Under his reign, the land of Kim or Egypt flourished. Crops rose as if guided by divine hands. Humanity learned law, agriculture, and sacred order, not imposed, but remembered. And at his side stood Set, later named Isis by the Greeks. She was not merely his queen, she was his equal, a priestess, magician, and keeper of sacred words. Where Osiris embodied order, Isis embodied wisdom. Together, they were Ma'at made flesh. As long as Isis and Osiris ruled together, the world remained whole. But as positive polarity draws in negative, harmony draws the attention of imbalance. Set, brother to Osiris, watched from the margins, lord of storms, deserts, and disruption. Where Osiris unified, Set divided. Where Osiris nourished, Set tested. Resentment hardened into resolve, and Set disguised violence as celebration. Plotting betrayal. Set hosted a lavish banquet for Osiris, inviting Egypt's elite under the guise of reconciliation. Osiris, ever trusting, accepted while Isis sensed danger but couldn't dissuade him. The palace brimmed with music and laughter as Set played the perfect host, keeping Osiris's cup full. At the night's peak, Set unveiled a magnificent, jewel-encrusted chest, promising it to whoever fit inside perfectly. Guests, tipsy and eager, tried the chest, but none fit until Osiris. Osiris, encouraged by the crowd, lay inside. The chest closed around him flawlessly. Instantly, Set slammed the lid shut. His conspirators sealed it with nails and molten lead. The joyous feast turned to horror as Osiris was trapped, betrayed by his own brother. The chest, once a symbol of celebration, became Osiris's prison. Set's plan was complete, the king's fate sealed in darkness. The guests, stunned, watched as the celebration became a scene of treachery. Set's cruelty was revealed in a single brutal act. Osiris's trust had led him to doom. The chest was cast into the Nile and carried away into darkness. And with Osiris's descent, the balance of the world broke. News of Osiris's fate spread, shattering the kingdom's harmony. The golden age ended, Set's tyranny began. The chest drifted beyond Egypt, carried by currents older than memory. The Nile now a watery grave. It came to rest in a distant land, hidden within the trunk of a great tree. The tree grew around it, gracefully sheltering what lay inside. The tree's beauty caught the eye of Byblos' king, who had it placed within his palace grounds, unaware of the secret within. Osiris's presence gave the pillar a divine fragrance, filling the grounds with magic. Guided by hope and intuition, Isis searched. She journeyed to Byblos, where Osiris's coffin had become encased in the mighty tree. Disguised as an old woman, Isis waited by the city well, befriending the queen's handmaidens. Her magic enchanted them, and the queen, intrigued, summoned Isis to the palace. Impressed by her healing powers, the queen made Isis nursemaid to the infant prince. This allowed Isis to stay close to the pillar that held her beloved. By day, she cared for the prince. By night, she plotted to reclaim Osiris. Her quest had led her to a foreign land, hidden in plain sight. Isis's patience and cunning brought her closer to her goal. After curing the prince of an illness, Isis was granted a boon by the king. She revealed to the king who she was and how Osiris was wound up in the tree. The king, graced by her humility, gave her the chest containing the body of Osiris. She carried him home and concealed him in secret. She guarded him in mourning and in love. But resurrection was not yet permitted. Something deeper was still required. However, Set discovered the hidden body. In fury, he tore Osiris apart fragment by fragment and scattered the pieces across Egypt. This time, there was no body to hide, no form to guard, only absence. And Egypt mourned again, yet Isis did not break. She transformed. She wrapped herself in wings and became a wanderer once more. This time, she was not alone. Nephthys walked beside her, sister and shadow, and together they gathered what had been scattered. Each fragment of Osiris was found. Each was purified. Each was remembered. Spell by spell, breath by breath, name by sacred name, Isis and Nephthys stood over the broken form of Osiris and spoke words older than death itself. Words of becoming, words of remembrance. Through sacred magic, Osiris rose, not to the world of the living, but beyond it. From their union of the living Isis and the incorporeal Osiris came Heru, known as Horus, conceived between worlds, a union of spirit and matter, a child born of devotion and loss, the union of the spirit of Osiris and the creative power of Isis. Osiris descended into the Duat, not as a victim, but as a king, lord of the afterlife, judge of souls, the first to pass through death and emerge eternal. In the material realm, Set claimed the throne. Storms replaced seasons, power replaced harmony. The people wept. Isis vanished into the marshes, hiding Horus among reeds and sacred waters, living as a poor woman disguising her divine nature. Spirits watched over his sleep. However, one day when Isis returned from seeking food, she finds Horus unconscious and near death, his body rigid and cold from venom. Set had sent a scorpion to kill the child. Isis cries out in anguish, and her lament is so powerful that it halts the cosmos. The gods answered, Thoth assisted, life returned, and the child grew. When Horus came of age, he stood before the Ennead and claimed his birthright. Set laughed. Their battles raged across years and forms. They fought as men, as beasts, as forces of nature. In one battle, Set tore out the eye of Horus and shattered it. Horus wounded Set terribly in return. Neither could destroy the other because neither was meant to. The god of wisdom, Jehuti, called Thoth, restored the eye, not as it was, but wiser, a sign that perception, once broken, can be healed. At last, the gods intervened. Truth was weighed, order measured against chaos. Osiris spoke from the Duat, his voice carrying the authority of one who had passed through death and returned transformed. At last, Horus was declared rightful king and ascended the throne. However, Set was not destroyed. He was assigned his place, a force to challenge stagnation, not rule harmony. Ma'at, or divine balance, returned to the land. The Nile flowed in rhythm once more. The gods withdrew, and humanity inherited the earth. The love of Isis and Osiris had not only conquered death, it restored equilibrium in the ancient world. The love story of Isis and Osiris is perhaps the most famous and beloved myth from ancient Egypt. It is a story that has captivated people for millennia with its themes of eternal love, unwavering devotion, and the triumph of life over death. Isis and Osiris were not just siblings, they were also husband and wife. Their love was said to have begun even before they were born, while they were still in the womb of their mother, Nut. This profound connection made them more than just rulers. They were soulmates, a perfect pair destined to rule together in harmony and bring prosperity to the world. As rulers of Egypt, Osiris and Isis were seen as benevolent and wise. Osiris was a kind king who taught humanity the arts of agriculture, law, and civilization. He brought order and prosperity to the land, turning people away from chaos and barbarism. By his side was Isis, a powerful and intelligent queen. She was a great magician, a loving wife, and a wise counselor to her husband. While Osiris taught across the earth, she managed the affairs of Egypt. Together, They represented the ideal royal couple. Their reign was a golden age of peace and abundance. The people loved them, and the land flourished under their gentle guidance, a perfect embodiment of divine order on earth. And yet, this was never meant to remain a story of gods. It was meant to become a story for humanity. To the ancient Egyptians, this was not mythology. It was instruction. The Book of the Dead does not speak only to the dead. It speaks to the living who seek eternity. Again and again, its spells begin with a declaration: I am Osiris. Osiris represents the divine soul through the various phases, from the illusion of incarnation to the actuality of spirit resurrected. Isis's magic doesn't bring him back to walk the earth. It aids him in his ascension to the king of the duet. He leaves the illusion of king on earth and becomes king in actuality. His dismemberment mirrors the fragmentation of the self, the illusion of separation, memory split by trauma and a myriad of incarnations, identity divided by fear, awareness trapped in time. In the Book of the Dead, the initiate does not worship Osiris, they become him. To become Osiris is to die before death, to surrender false identity, to see through the illusion of death, to face judgment not by gods, but by truth itself. Isis is the power that remembers. She is intuition, devotion, the intelligence that knows wholeness is possible after fragmentation. Isis is in fact the perfect balance between love and wisdom, representing a wisdom that transcends time and space. She is feminine energy incarnate, giving life in the face of death. To become Isis is to gather the pieces of the self and that of others without condemnation. To retrieve lost aspects of the soul by living in Ma'at and in resonance with the heart and love. To become Isis is to love what was broken back into coherence and to use vital force energy to heal. Isis embodies the seeking and remembrance of one's divinity. Isis teaches that love is not weakness. It is the key to being resurrected to a higher plane. Osiris does not return to rule the living world because awakening is not regression. True resurrection is transcendence and evolution of the soul. Such evolution happened during Osiris's life. He reaped the benefits upon the death of his body. Osiris becomes Lord of the Duat, the inner realm the soul must navigate once illusion is shed. It is said in the Book of the Dead that he who knows himself knows the gods. The exploration and perfection of self happens while we are incarnated here on earth because the afterlife is not a place. It is a state of consciousness. Horus is the result of the great work. He is awakened awareness, integrated consciousness, the divine child born when soul and intuition reunite. The eye of Horus is restored perception, seeing clearly beyond deception. Horus does not destroy Set, he balances him. Chaos is no longer dominant, shadow is no longer feared. Ma'at is restored within. The Egyptian initiate did not pray to Isis. They awakened her within. They did not hope to meet Osiris. They became him. This is why the Book of the Dead was buried with the initiate, not as a guide for the corpse, but as a reminder to the soul. You were never meant to perish. You were meant to remember. You have been scattered. You have forgotten. But the Isis within you still searches. The Osiris within you still waits. And the Horus within you is ready to rise. The myth is not ancient. It is eternal. Thank you for watching. Like and subscribe for more videos. In love and light.